Welcome in, Hawks fans. Your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for another Believe in Hawks episode. The NBA schedule has fully released, and so now we know where the Atlanta Hawks will be for all 82 games, when players that we sign will go against their former teams, how many primetime games the Hawks have, and everything under the sun, what networks, and etc. So we're going to go into a bit of a dive into that schedule release today on Believe in Hawks, plus a couple other topics as well. I appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode. Obviously, if you didn't know, Believe has partnered with FanDuel. So now Believe in Hawks is presented by FanDuel as well as Believe. So really exciting times there. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, definitely subscribe, like the video, leave a comment down below. And also follow me on Twitter at Bricey_2K, BRICEY, for all my takes on the Atlanta Hawks and to interact with me as well. So let's go ahead and dive into it. So the Hawks' 82-game schedule has been released, and they will open the season at home against the Toronto Raptors. That should be the debut of Brandon Ingram for the Toronto Raptors, so that'll be a bit of a storyline going into that game. Toronto, a team that a lot of people are kind of looking at in the lower part of the Eastern Conference, but a team that could be sneaky. RJ Barrett, Grady Dick. I'm forgetting a name. I just mentioned him, Brandon Ingram, et cetera, et cetera. So that could be a good little opening test for the Hawks at home. Obviously, you want to start the season on a good note. That game is on October 22nd. So obviously, that's who they open up against. First road game is the next game right after that against the Orlando Magic, a team that people think the Hawks and them will be jockeying for position throughout the season. Some people have Orlando 3, Atlanta 4, Atlanta 4, Orlando 5. It just depends. A lot of people think this is going to be evenly. This is good. These two teams are going to be very even in the standings this year, and I think we didn't play Orlando till later in the season last year, really. So that's why we had so many games against them really on the back end of the year. So they'll be interesting in the fact that we're playing them in game 2 of this year, and they're our first road game. Our first primetime game will be NBC game. Obviously, as you know, NBC will now have national televised games and also on Peacock. And the Hawks' first primetime game will be against Orlando on a Tuesday night, November 4th on NBC, 8 p.m. game. So obviously, if you are local in Atlanta, you can watch the Hawks on NBC. I don't know, because that is a local channel, how that will go cable-wise. I don't know if there will be those games will be games for Bob and Neek or whoever. Don't do a broadcast so they can get more viewers to NBC. I don't know if it'll be either or. I know for ESPN, NBA TV, that can sometimes vary, but I wonder for NBC if that's the same way. So, but that will be the first time, and it'll be part of the new primetime team this year for the NBA. The Hawks will be playing the Orlando Magic on NBC. Another key part of the schedule I noticed is that they kind of do a bit of a West Coast trip earlier. I feel like the West Coast trip usually is like December, January for the Hawks. This year they're doing it in November. They play the Lakers at home before going to the other LA team, the Clippers in LA. Then they play Sacramento, Utah, and Phoenix. So that's 4 games. They'll be on the West Coast. So they'll be on the West Coast for a full week. Usually the West Coast run for the Hawks can sometimes be not the greatest for this team. Just because obviously Clippers, good team. Sacramento, we'll see what they are this year. Utah's not expected to be good, but got some talent. Phoenix, people think they're going to take a step back. They also got talent as well. So I could see people easily going into this 4-game stretch and thinking we should be at least 3-1. With the Lakers, we'll see 3-2, 4-1. We'll see. But that'll be first, and then they come back from that West Coast trip with another NBC primetime game against the Detroit Pistons on November 11th. So that will be the second primetime game of the year. 2 primetime games within the first month of the season, actually, for the Hawks. So that's definitely a good thing to see right there. Couple of other key points. The Hawks will play the Knicks, Pistons, 76ers, Bucks, Bulls, and Pacers 3 times this year. All other Eastern Conference teams they will play 4 times during the season. So that could bode well. I guess some of the more competitive teams in the Eastern Conference, the Hawks are not going to play 4 times, just 3, where those teams like Charlotte, Washington, Toronto. You're going to probably want to win those series 3-1 at least or sweep and really get those wins to give you up in the standings. Hawks also are tied for the fewest set of back-to-backs. It felt like last year's schedule there was a lot of back-to-backs for Atlanta, and there were some things that kind of reflected that. They sometimes, I think at one point in the year, played the most games than any other team, had the most road games than any other team early in the season. So this year they only have 13 sets of back-to-back, 2 home and home, 1 home and road, and then 7 road and home, and then 3 road and road. So that's what you're looking at from that perspective. Just trying to, I think that works out better for the Hawks. I think that's a easier, softer, friendlier start to, or not start, but a softer schedule plate for the Hawks than what they had last year. Because last year's schedule was tough for them, but they did what they needed to do. So good stuff there. Good stuff there for them. Let me go back to the schedule. NBA Cup game. Well, the NBA Cup series games we've already gotten from the Atlanta Hawks because obviously they were dropping some games just like, here and there. We know the Hawks have the Martin Luther King game, which will be on Peacock. I know people were like, why are we not on NBC with the rest of the games? But, whatever, bro. I'm not about to go crazy with what the NBA is doing in that regard, so to say. Let me find those NBA Cup games for you guys because we have our list. So on October 31st, we start NBA Cup matchup against Indiana. November 7th will be 7:30 against the Toronto Raptors. On November 25th, it will be the Washington Wizards. And then on November 28th will be the Cleveland Cavaliers. So there'll be the 4 NBA Cup matchups. If the Hawks make it out of that round, the NBA Cup knockout rounds will begin on the 9th, 10th, 13th, and 16th. And then, if not, Hawks will potentially play games on 11th, 12th, 14th, and 15th at normal regular season games. So that'll be good for sure. Obviously, the Hawks made it to the knockout round, won, got to the Final Four, lost. Be interesting to see what the Hawks can do this year in a group that I think some people view as a little favorable, not too much of an issue, or not too much of a, it's not like, oh my God, we're in a terrible group where we're having the best teams in the Eastern Conference all in the same group. I think outside of, you're probably thinking Cleveland's your biggest test out of that entire group. So doing some good stuff there. Hawks have another primetime game against the Knicks on Amazon Prime. Second day, right after New Year's, against the Knicks at 7:30. So mark that down if you want to watch a primetime game between those two teams. I believe that won't be the first time they play New York. They'll actually play New York right before New Year's on December 27th. And that will be at home. This game on Amazon Prime will be on the road. So that is where the Hawks will be there. Then you have another primetime game against Milwaukee on January 19th, which is the Martin Luther King game, which will be on Peacock exclusively. So if you are not a Peacock subscriber, I will probably recommend for you to go and subscribe to Peacock if you want to watch the Hawks, or illegal streaming, whatever you want to do. Whatever works for you. But they'll definitely have some games on Peacock, especially on the back end of their schedule starting in March. They're going to have a lot more Peacock games. Which I think they finished the season with 3 Peacock games. So, that'll be a place to go to watch them there. They only have 1 ESPN game this year, which is against the Bucks in March. So that'll be the only time the Hawks will pop up on ESPN. They have 3 NBC games, which Dallas will be the last one. And then their Peacock games are Milwaukee, Orlando, Memphis, New York. Actually, that's a lie. They have 2 ESPN games. I didn't see this one. Orlando is the other ESPN game. So they have 2 ESPN games, 3 Prime games, 4 NBC games. Sorry, I'm confusing myself. Yeah, 3 NBC games and then a couple of Primes. So that's what you're looking at right there. You end the season against Miami. Obviously, Miami's always been a thorn in their side, a team that you've always been battling with. We'll see if that still ends up being a potentially very important game. Cleveland 2 back-to-back before that. New York. So last 4 games, you may be playing against 4 playoff teams. and then you got Brooklyn. So the end of the season is actually not the smoothest, but hopefully the Hawks will be in really good playoff position by that point anyway. So that's kind of an overview of kind of what the schedule is looking like for the Hawks for the most part. If you want a key dates for just guys going back to former teams, Nickeil Alexander-Walker's return to Minnesota will be Monday, February 9th when he comes back to Minnesota. Obviously played there the last few years. We got him in a sign and trade this offseason. Expect to be a very big part of this team and what they're expected to do this year. Let's see. I feel like there was another one here I had. Kristaps Porzingis will return to Boston January 28th. So obviously that'll be a big game for him. Hopefully healthy, ready to go in that game. And then the Hawks will host the reigning champion Thunder in the third game of the season, Saturday, October 25th. If you remember last year, I think the Thunder were the Hawks' third or fourth game last year. So obviously that's always a game that you kind of look at on the schedule. It's like, hey, these are defending champs. This is a bit of a measuring stick for us to see where we are. And so, I think the Hawks overall, I think this is actually a pretty decent, favorable schedule. I don't think this schedule is really crazy, so to say. I mean, and it's funny to say that because, of course, you know who you're playing. But but sometimes how a season goes is just based off of it's just based off of when you're playing who in the season. Because it's like, do you want all your tough games front loaded? Where if you have a decent record through that, then you have the softer end. Hopefully you stay healthy. Maybe you go on a bit of a streak with these easier games, and that leads you into good playoff positioning. Do you want an easy slate early so that way you can build some wins up, and then when you get into those competitive games, you see where you are. You could say, it gives you time to get chemistry, get things pat down, get on the same page, especially if you have maybe some newer teammates on your team where obviously tough games, you're kind of coming right out the gate, having to trying to be at your best against some of the best teams in the league. We know there's going to be nights where guys take off, rest, things of that nature. So that's just going to be part of it as well. That's why also sometimes the timing of these games can be very important. But overall, I think the Hawks have a pretty favorable schedule overall, and I'm not too concerned about where they are, but I know some people might be. But overall, I think, like I said, it's a good schedule. So I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on, what you guys think of the Hawks schedule, what stands out to you, what are you looking forward to, what are your expectations based off seeing where we are with the schedule, predictions for opening night, what seed, things of that nature. So I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on that and just see how we go from there. So good stuff for sure. Obviously, I wouldn't go into best games because at the end of the day, it's just like, okay, who's an elite team and when do we play them? Obviously, you can look at the schedule. It's posted everywhere. So you can see for yourself what you feel like is the game that you maybe think, oh yeah, these are the big games, these are not the big games, et cetera, right? So, well, that's kind of like an overview of the NBA schedule for the Hawks. So overall, really, really, really favorable, like I said, for the Hawks. So I'll mention a couple quick things, and then I'll wrap this up. This is gonna be a super long podcast. Obviously, still Trae Young contract talks are still going, right? In terms of the storyline. Couple of different reports. Brad Rowland says the Hawks have talked. They just aren't going to give him a max. And then that's where Hawks have kind of stalled. Mark Spears a couple weeks ago said they just haven't talked to Trae Young at all. So there's a bit of a discrepancy in the reporting there. But really, overall, my thoughts on Trae Young's situation is I'm cool with the approach that Ansi is going with him. I mean, there's really no reason to rush this. I mean, you also read that Trae is kind of in his team's kind of like, oh, well, next year we can make even more money if we don't. And I think sometimes the debate you always make as a team and as an organization is that, do you pay a player as soon as you can to potentially try to get them at a lower price? Or do you go ahead and pay them? Are you willing to wait to pay them knowing, hey, if he balls out, if the team finds a lot of success, that price is going to go up? And then, are y'all comfortable paying a higher price if these things are check mark? I would think you would say, If he does these things, then we'll pay this. Obviously, if he makes all NBA, he'll be eligible for even bigger super max contract. So that's also something that the Hawks are taking a chance with if that is truly an issue, especially in today's age of the salary cap. But I mean, I think Trae gonna come out there. He gonna compete. He gonna play. He gonna do his thing. I'm not really too concerned about how it's going to impact anything dramatically. I think the Hawks understand that it's a business, and they're still evaluating things. I mean, I think Jake Fisher kind of made a great point. He said they're still evaluating. This is still an evaluation year because remember, Kristaps Porzingis is on a 1-year deal. He's not guaranteed to be here past next year, this coming season. And so, one thing you keep hearing about is optionality, which is like something that Ansi said. And I think the Hawks always want to give themselves avenues. They do not want to be locked into where it's like we can't do anything if this does not work. They want to give themselves options, and they're just giving themselves the ability to say, let's say it doesn't work out this season. Okay, maybe we move off of Trae. Trae gets into free agency. Maybe we move off of Porzingis. We still have some young guys, Dyson, Jalen, and them. Try to see if we can reconfigure some things and see how that looks. But if things work out, you have Porzingis' rights. You have Trae's rights. You can maybe get a deal that works that's more beneficial for the team. I don't see Porzingis, if he was getting a contract extension, getting anything long. If anything, it's like a 2-3 year deal for me. So I don't think that'll be long. Trae Young, you're probably looking at a 4-year, maybe a 5-year deal potentially, depending on, again, do they want to give the extra year and the extra money to Trae? Dyson is still a guy. We'll see if he gets extended this offseason. I don't know if the Hawks want to go into next year with 3 potential extensions they know they need to give. I would think you maybe want to knock Dyson out now, but again, we'll see what their thought process is. And don't forget, they still have 1 roster spot available right now on the team. So that is also something that is looking to be filled hopefully soon with the team. So overall, I'm not really too concerned. I think some people get nervous just because, what if things don't go well and Trae walks? And that's just a risk you gotta be willing to take. I mean, that's you don't want to panic sign him and then it doesn't, because the Hawks, if they sign him and then it doesn't go well, it's like, well, we're stuck. And then you always keep hearing that Trae doesn't really have this great trade market. If you attach this major contract to him and the team isn't in a good place, it's like it's not going to be easy to get rid of him unless you're almost like salary dumping, and that's like worst case scenario. So it's smart to kind of hold off on anything kind of crazy and just kind of let it kind of build out, and see how the season goes. Because I think there is an expectation they'll be good. And so I think it's more about, I think, obviously how he plays, how he comes along, his growth as a leader on this team, and then how the team ends up in terms of actual team success. So I think the Hawks are, sitting in a good spot, I would say, from that perspective. And I don't think there's really too much to worry about, bro. You kind of we live with it, and you kind of just see how it goes. So that's kind of how I feel from that perspective. Also, like I said, a couple of Hawks playing in some international basketball. Kristaps Porzingis has been playing basketball. First home country. And so, he's been good. Hitting threes, making plays. Can't beat that. He's looked good. He's looked good. Really, really good stuff from him. I think Porzingis is a guy who I think a lot of people are excited to see how especially his relationship and his play with Trae. I think people are excited to see how that looks. I mean, you see it, in the way he's playing. If you've been watching at all any of his overseas basketball, just his ability to hit a 3 from long distance, the fact that he is a unicorn, the fact that he can just do so many different things, man. Like, he really is, he even showed some passing. Like, he was all over, especially playing against Valanciunas today. Listen, Porzingis is going to be great for this team, and I'm excited to see what he can do. And then also Zach played as well today. I think he did a pretty good job, did some good things in transition. I think you really can see in some of the games the strength of Relaase really improving has helped him with finishing, helped him with athleticism. He had that crazy dunk in the last game he played in that we saw for France. And, he's been really, really good for them. So, I mean, that's another guy who continues to really kind of show the fruits of his labor so far from the offseason. Obviously Ricochet is still going to have some up and down play. I mean, he airballed a couple of threes today, but he made some good cuts, denied passes to the corner, things of that nature. Aggressive play today from him. So, Zach did a really good job. And obviously, those overseas guys, veteran guys, they know how to play the game. I think he did a really good job. And he finished with 12 points today. Like I said, I think Porzingis finished like 21. So, good to see just the guys you still playing and kind of, just like being able to kind of just play for their countries, but also, show their skill that they've learned. And like I said, Porzingis, I mean, I think the last time we see him, he wasn't like healthy, but I think overall, I think he's in good shape. So overall, I think the Hawks are in a good place. Schedule's out. Like I said, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on everything. And so we'll see how it continues to develop as the offseason goes on and we get closer to preseason and training camp and media day, which I will plan to be at again this year. So excited for that, guys. But I think that's about it here for the Believe in Hawks at podcast. If you enjoyed this, subscribe, like the video, leave a comment down below. Follow me on X at Bryce_2K. And like I said, just let me know about anything y'all guys are thinking right now in the comment section, man. But I think that's about it for me. It's your boy Bryce Lewis. We'll see you next time.